Right now, you feel unwatched. You're alone, or you think you are. Your face is doing whatever it wants, and you're not managing it. But somewhere in the back of your skull, a system is running that never fully shuts off. It is scanning for eyes. You don't feel it because it's quiet. It only speaks up when it finds something. You've had the experience 1,000 times. You're on a train, staring at nothing, and suddenly your head turns before you decide to turn it. Across the car, someone is looking at you. You caught it without trying. You didn't reason your way there. Something older than reason moved your neck. That reflex is not a quirk. It is one of the oldest pieces of machinery in you, and it was built for a world that wanted to eat you. Start with a number. Your eyes are strange. Look at almost any other animal on Earth, and you'll find that the colored part, the iris, fills nearly the whole visible eye. The white part, the sclera, is hidden or dark. A wolf can look at you, and you cannot tell exactly where it is looking. A chimpanzee, our closest living relative, has darkened sclera for the same reason. Their gaze is a secret. Yours is not. Your eyes are painted with a bright white background, so that a dark circle sits on top of it like a target. Anyone can follow your gaze from across a room. A baby can do it before it can speak. Why would evolution build an animal that broadcasts exactly where it's looking? The anthropologist Michael Tomasello has a name for the answer. He calls it the cooperative eye hypothesis. Somewhere on the long road to becoming human, your ancestors stopped being pure competitors and started being partners. When you hunt together, build together, raise children together, it helps enormously to see what your partner sees. A glance becomes a sentence. Look there. Danger. That one. Your white eyes are a confession. They admit where your attention is because, for your species, sharing attention was worth more than hiding it. But here is the cost of that gift. If your eyes can be read, so can everyone's. You evolved in a world where every other pair of eyes was also a bright, readable signal, and your brain became exquisitely, almost absurdly good at reading them. There is a specific piece of tissue involved. Deep in the middle of your brain sits a small structure called the superior colliculus. It's ancient. Fish have a version of it. It handles fast, crude, life-or-death visual reflexes before the slow, clever, conscious parts of your brain have even received the picture. And it appears to be tuned, in part, to faces and to eyes. This is why gaze reaches you faster than thought. The signal takes a shortcut. Consider the case of a woman known in the scientific literature only as patient SM. The neuroscientist Ralph Adolphs and his colleagues studied her for years. A rare condition had destroyed her amygdala, the brain's alarm bell, on both sides. The result was a person who felt almost no fear. She could not reliably recognize fear on other faces either. But something specific broke in how she looked at people. When she examined a face, she stopped going to the eyes. Show her only the eyes, and her ability to read emotion collapsed. Direct her, force her to look at the eyes, and some of it came back. Her brain had, in a sense, been the eye-reading organ. Damage it, and the world of gaze goes dim. So you are a creature built to read eyes at high speed, using deep machinery wired to an alarm. Now ask the obvious question. What was the alarm for? Go back. Not 100 years. 100,000. You are on a landscape of tall grass and scattered trees, and you are not at the top of the food chain. You are a slow, soft, clawless animal that a leopard considers a reasonable meal. In that world, being looked at is not a social event. It is data. A direct stare from a predator means it has selected you. It has stopped scanning and started hunting. The gap between noticing that stare and not noticing it is the gap between your genes continuing and your genes ending. So the animals that startled at the feeling of being watched had more children than the animals that shrugged. Over enough generations, the shrug disappears. What's left is you, flinching at a gaze on a train. Your nervous system does not know it's a train. It knows what it always knew. Eyes on me means something has chosen me. This is where it gets stranger, because the system is deliberately, usefully paranoid. Think about the math of a false alarm. If you feel watched and you're wrong, you lose a second of comfort and a small squirt of adrenaline. If you feel unwatched and you're wrong, you die. When one mistake is cheap and the other is fatal, evolution does not build a balanced detector. It builds a jumpy one. It would rather cry wolf 1,000 times than miss the wolf once. Psychologists have a name for this too. It's sometimes called hyperactive agency detection. Your brain is biased to assume that ambiguous things in the environment are agents, minds, watchers, rather than dead matter. The rustle in the dark is a person until proven otherwise. The shape in the corner is a face. This is why you can see a face in a car grill, in an electrical outlet, in the clouds. The machinery that finds eyes is turned up so high that it finds them where they don't exist. That's not a malfunction. That's the setting that kept your ancestors alive. Now watch what happens when you take this ancient, paranoid, eye-reading animal and show it a picture of eyes. Not a real person. A picture. In 2006, 3 researchers at Newcastle University, Melissa Bateson, Daniel Nettle, and Gilbert Roberts, ran a study that has become quietly famous. In their department, there was an honesty box, a place where people paid for coffee and tea on the trust system. Nobody was watching. Every week, the researchers changed a small image on the wall above the box. One week it was flowers. The next week it was a pair of human eyes, looking straight out. Then flowers again, then eyes, back and forth. The people using that box were university staff, educated adults, fully aware, if you'd ask them, that a photograph cannot see. And in the weeks when the eyes were watching, they paid nearly 3 times as much for their drinks as in the weeks of flowers. 3 times for a picture. Nobody reported noticing. Nobody said the eyes made them behave. The effect slipped in underneath awareness through the old machinery and quietly changed what honest felt like. It wasn't a fluke. Other researchers, Kevin Haley and Daniel Fessler among them, had already found that even a stylized image of eyes on a computer screen made people give more money to strangers in economic games. Faint eyes, cartoon eyes. Enough of a hint, and the sense of being watched switches on, and your behavior bends toward what a watched person does. More generous, more honest, more careful. Because for almost all of human history, being watched meant your reputation was being written in real time, in front of the people you depended on to survive. And that is the second half of the story. The half that turns a predator reflex into the invisible architecture of your entire social life. You are not just afraid of eyes because they might belong to a leopard. You are afraid of eyes because they belong to people who talk. Your ancestors lived in small bands where being cast out was a death sentence. You could not survive the winter alone. So the opinion of the group was not an abstraction. It was your life support. And the group's opinion was built entirely out of what its eyes had seen you do. To be watched was to be judged. To be judged was to be sorted into kept or cast out. So the same signal, eyes on me, came to carry a second warning underneath the first. Not only something has chosen me, but they are seeing who I am. The blush that rushes to your face when you're caught, the heat, the wish to disappear, that is this system firing. You are not in physical danger, but a much older part of you cannot tell the difference between a hostile stare and a hunting one, and it responds to both by making you want to be smaller. The philosopher Jeremy Bentham understood the power of this without knowing any of the neuroscience. In the 18th century, he designed a prison he called the panopticon, a ring of cells around a central tower. The prisoners could never tell whether the guard in the tower was looking at them at that moment. And Bentham's insight, later made famous by Michel Foucault, was that it didn't matter. If you might be watched at any time, you begin to behave as if you are watched all the time. You install the guard inside your own head. You become your own warden. The tower doesn't even need anyone in it. The possibility of the eye is enough, which should make you look very carefully at the world you actually live in now. You carry a camera everywhere. You post under your name. A number counts your watchers and shows it to you. You perform quietly for an audience you cannot see and cannot count. And you refresh to find out how the eyes responded. The Honesty Bosty box is now the whole internet, and the pair of eyes on the wall never comes down. You feel it as anxiety, as the strange exhaustion of being online, as the sense that you are always slightly on stage. You blame the technology, but the technology didn't build the feeling. It only found the ancient machine that was already inside you, the leopard detector, the reputation tracker, and it pressed the button over and over all day long. So the next time your head turns, before you tell it to, the next time you feel that prickle on the back of your neck in an empty room, don't be embarrassed by it. You are not paranoid. You are the finished product of 100,000 years of survivors, every one of whom flinched at the right stare. The feeling is a museum. It is your deep past, still standing guard. You began this by thinking you were unwatched. You never were. The watcher was never only out there in the dark, or up in the tower, or behind the screen. Long ago, your ancestors took the eye that hunted them and built a copy of it inside your own skull, and it has been watching you look for watchers ever since. That is the one gaze you will never turn around and catch. It's already looking back,